So UCLA held them in the shooting category. They out-rebounded them by 10. Any basketball head's going to tell you that, like, if you can win the battle of the boards, make your free throws, and then win the turnover battle, you will win. Yeah. Right? Hi, I'm Caitlin.
Hi, I'm Alex.
And this is Raising the Game, a women's sports podcast covering primetime performers, the business behind the athletes and leagues, and what the growth of women's sports means for the next generation of women's athletes.
We're back from a little bit of a vacation.
Yeah, it feels like it's been a while since we
Hope everyone enjoyed last week's episode. We have part 2 coming shortly. So we'll get that out potentially next week.
Yeah, I think we'll keep an eye on our socials. We'll announce it when we put it out there, but we're kind of working on, like, when can we work that into our cadence? We've got it all planned out. We just need to find some extra time to record.
Yeah, but for tonight,
there's so much going on.
Back into headlines and just normal news stuff.
We had tons to talk about. So before we dive into some of those headlines, should we do favorite thing?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So my favorite thing came about a week and a half ago now. We talked about this inaugural home opener for the Denver Summit. For those who are watching, you can see I have my repping my Denver Summit hat today on the pod. They were on this mission to, initially it was like sell 50,000 tickets to their inaugural home opener. They ended up having 63,000 people at their first game for an expansion team, brand new team. And Alex can verify this, that we were like watching at home and I was like in tears.
Yeah, you're crying.
Because it was so cool to see just the power of community, I think, that has grown behind these teams. Like, it doesn't even matter what the sport is. It seems like we've talked about that before, right? Like, women's sports fans are kind of transferable across sports. But I'm like texting my brother, he lives in Denver, and he's like, oh, my fiance is actually at the game. And I was like, well, I'm jealous of her. So that's good for her. But just like the energy there and just to be a part of something like that, it was so cool. And what validation for those, not just the Denver Summit players, but like all the athletes, right, who are.
I was thinking back to like we did the NWSL like history of like women's soccer, and I think that first NWSL game was like 5,200 people total or 4,200. It was like and so to see it go from that, and in how many years has it been?
It's about 13
years to 63,000 is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. It is. And it's really a testament to, I think, when we talked about that episode, like, you kind of had the dark period of the Yates report and everything that was going on with that, which ushered in new leadership. And Jessica Berman has, say what you will about her, but she's certainly directed them into a growth season for sure.
Absolutely.
So that was really cool. We are actually hoping that potentially later in the season we get to go to a Denver Summit game.
Yeah, it'd be fun. So,
what was your favorite thing?
Mine's not as emotional or anything epic like that. It's kind of hard to say this. So UCLA winning the national championship, in a sense of, and I know they were in the top 4 or 5 the whole year, so I would consider them a Titan, but the actual Titans, like the UConns and the USC, like, or South Carolina, not winning.
You're kind of the outsider.
Yes, right? Yeah. So like for the first time, it feels like in a while we had someone outside of those two win it.
Yeah.
And pretty handily. So I thought it was really fun.
Yeah, we're going to talk all about that.
As much as that lost you a lot of money on your bracket, I'm okay with it.
Like I said, we're going to talk about it. I won't get into it right now. Not about me losing money. That's fine. I was so close, though.
You were very close.
So close.
All right. Should we go into headlines?
Let's do it.
All right. UCLA Bruins women's basketball team wins first national title in the NCAA era with blowout win over South Carolina.
Like we said, we're going to dive into this, the Final Four, all the things.
I think the one quote I saw from Dawn Staley was, "We just didn't have it tonight." And it was kind of
the other one I saw from her was like, she can swallow losing to a team that's a bunch of good people and coached by a really good person, somebody who's trying to really grow the game of women's basketball.
Denver Summit smashes professional women's soccer attendance record with 63,000 fans attending inaugural home opener.
We could have cut our first two headlines.
Yeah, we could have.
Another first for the Denver Summit, the couple days before that game, they actually announced that they had secured $40 million in private bond funding, which is a first for any organization in the NWSL in order to build a state-of-the-art training center. Awesome. We had some stories earlier in the year about other clubs doing this, but it's interesting to see them finance it this way. It actually speaks to the strength of these clubs as like seen as an asset in the bond market. So I'm wondering, what door does that open
for other teams or other markets?
Yeah, or just other forms of funding, right? That probably weren't possible even a couple years ago.
Yeah. U.S. Women's National Team announces April camp roster ahead of 3 international friendlies against AFC champions Japan.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this too. Really excited. Soph's back.
Gigi's mom.
Gigi's mom. And one of my faves, Tierna Davidson, in that back line, which I think is actually really, really important for them. We'll talk about it.
I think we've talked about that a little bit already. Last weekend at the Miami Open, Aryna Sabalenka defeated Coco Gauff 3 sets to take the title in the Miami Open as the WTA wraps early season hard court cycle and moves to the clay. Yeah.
So that one was, I think there was a little bit of a, can Coco kind of get back on top before they move into clay court season? And she was close at the furthest that she had gotten.
And I believe something I learned today was that she also won the Indian Wells, and this is called the Sunshine Double. She's the 5th woman to do it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So new little piece of trivia for you.
Nice.
At the figure skating world championships 2 weeks ago, Hiyori Sakamoto won her 4th world title.
Yeah. So we had this on our, how can you go follow the Olympians after the Milano Cortina Olympics? And so this was obviously world championships for figure skating. Hiyori Sakamoto had taken 2nd or the silver medal at the Olympics, and she did something that I think only one other woman has ever done. Michelle Kwan did it, becoming a 4-time world champion. What a beautiful swan song for somebody who's just been such a pillar of that sport for so long and skated at such a high level. She's retiring now. That was kind of her last thing. And then the other thing I loved was got to see Amber Glenn get a redemption skate on the routine that kind of cost her a medal probably at the Olympics, and she nailed everything and looked gorgeous doing it. So good to see that.
Alyssa Liu signs an endorsement deal with Nike.
Of course she does. She's everywhere. I saw her on a box of Lucky Charms too.
Yeah. Amazing. WNBA had an ace up their sleeves during the most recent CBA negotiations in the form of Nobel Prize winning economist Claudia Golden.
So I don't know if I just missed this while all the things were going on, or if they literally kept her to the vest and it wasn't made public. It sounds like it actually was known that she had taken this call a couple years ago from Terry Carmichael. She did this for free. I learned. And what she kept saying in the report I was reading about it was, she's like, the numbers just don't add up. And this is something we've been saying as we've talked about this on the pod for months now, right? Is the numbers just don't make sense. And the analysis she had done, or at least what I read about, was if the WNBA was proportionate to the pay for the players relative to the revenue generated as the NBA, they should be getting a third.
Yes.
Right? They were getting 180th. 180th
is the stat I saw.
180th. Just let it sink in for a second. And so she's like, it doesn't, this makes zero sense. Right. So she clearly was privy to some numbers and, good on them for pulling in a Nobel Prize winning economist.
Yeah. The Connecticut Sun will become the Houston Comets in 2027. Hold your comments because we will talk about this later.
This ends a 23-year stint for a team there in Connecticut. Connecticut, obviously home of the UConn Huskies, both very dominant men's and women's programs. I think it's a real shame to be taking the only women's basketball team in the Northeast out of that space. So like you said, I know we're going to talk. I want to clock one here because I may have added it after you took your notes.
Okay,
got, well, we can't forget that WNBA free agency started today.
Yes, it did.
And with a big move.
Angel Reese
to
Atlanta.
From the Chicago Sky to the Atlanta Dream. Yeah. So far, that's all we've really heard about as far as concrete moves of big players. But we're going to talk more about that timeline and things to watch for this week as free agency really heats up.
CBS Sports and the WNBA announced long-term broadcast deal starting with 20 regular season games during the 2026 season.
Yeah, so I couldn't find more detail on this deal. Like they said long-term. I'm like, long-term is not one season. That's weird. And then it was also what was really... I commented on this to you. Fascinating to me about the announcement of this deal was it was announced just a few days after they had reached agreement on the CBA. And we were like, you're claiming you're not making any money and you're trying to hold it over these players and say they can't get this revenue share. And yet you're going to go pull in millions of more dollars through another broadcast deal, which great. Like these networks want these games and advertisers want to be on those games as well. So, but
I don't want to dig into it too much, but is this like a game of the week type of deal with 20 regular?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we got more research to do on that.
The Big Ten and SEC volleyball announced plans to play 2 matches at Wrigley Field next season in early September.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's fun.
Could be cold.
Yeah, it could be very cold.
Never know.
Attendance records continue to be broken in the PWHL with almost 16,000 fans at the Takeover Tour game in Detroit last weekend in March. Followed this last weekend with attendance records in both U.S., 18,000 sold at MSG in New York City, and Canada, 17,775 in Ottawa.
So yeah, that Detroit game, right, was that first nationally televised game for the PWHL. And then the other thing that was really interesting that I read is that with some of these like bursts that have come post Olympics, the season over season average attendance is up 25%. Yeah. Right. They're getting almost more than 1,000 more fans per game. Yeah. Across the league. And more in some cases. So
I wonder, I would love to see it before the Olympic just to see how much of that was like purely Olympic bump or if it's gonna.
Yeah, so I don't know the exact numbers, but I was reading that prior to the Olympics they were seeing, I think it was 17%. Okay. So it was more than last year, but then they've had this kind of consistent trend upwards since the Olympics. So
in NCAA gymnastics, the national semifinal stage is set with UCLA, Minnesota, Oklahoma, Arkansas on one side of the bracket, and LSU, Stanford, Florida, and Georgia on the other.
Yeah, so both of these meets are in a couple weeks from now, which I will definitely be watching. But UCLA and Minnesota sort of snuck in. Like I think their final gymnast had to score. Jordan Childs had to score a perfect 10 on her floor routine in order for them to make it. And
she did.
And she did.
Yeah.
She hit her 8th 10 of the season. And just like there's like a video of her finishing and she's super stoked and she is like cheering. And then she runs over to the Gopher gymnastics team to celebrate with them.
Oh, amazing.
And then like all the UCLA ones come over. And so like big weekend for UCLA women's sports. I love Jordan Childs, like everything about her sportsmanship, her performances, just embodies what it's like to be a awesome female athlete.
Absolutely. NFL to launch men's and women's flag football leagues to harness the worldwide popularity.
Yeah, so there's 20 million participants through youth, men's and women's flag football league variants around the world right now across 100 countries. So I think the NFL is looking at this saying, this is a way for us to grow our game, right? The NFL, we don't think about it here in America, but like, because it's so dominant here, but it does not have the worldwide reach of soccer as an example, right? Or even basketball, right? And so it's interesting to see them, something that's, again, like so dominant here in the States, trying to grow its footprint and doing it through an avenue of like, let's expand for all people. Got some big names, investors and supporters here. Tom Brady, the Manning brothers, but you've also got Serena, Alex Morgan, Billie Jean King, right? Kind of what I was writing this out, I was like the list of usual suspects.
Usual suspects.
And
there.
I love that too, because I love that, you know, you're kind of seeing that consistent, like, here's how I'm going to give back now that I have, you know, made my money in my sport and I've retired. So love seeing it.
Is there a master's division and can I join?
I want to know. I think I need competitive sport back in my life. I was thinking about this today. I'm like,
that'd be great. Flag football would be great.
I feel like I could do it.
Yeah.
Right?
It'd be great.
We're looking into it.
All right. Moving on. NCAA women's basketball tournament. We're going to talk championship game, I think.
Yeah. We'll start with the championship game. We'll talk a little bit about the Final Four too, because I think it was just like there were some fascinating dynamics from as far as the teams went. Obviously, there was fascinating interpersonal dynamics, which we will comment on.
We'll talk about that.
But like we said in the headlines, UCLA just owned South Carolina. Honestly, I was kind of surprised that South Carolina got blown out so badly. Now, remember, if you were paying attention last year, they also got blown out by UConn in the final. But this is a team that's won 3 championships in the last 7 years or whatever it is. This would have been their 3rd in the last 5. So they're no strangers to that pressure. I think they've been in the Final Four for the last 6 seasons or something like that. But UCLA, typically known over the course of this season for their offense. Right? They score a lot of points. They got a lot of scoring. We'll talk about that in a second. A lot of experienced players. They held South Carolina to under 30% shooting, which if you're not a basketball head, like that's not good. And frankly, early in the game, Alex probably heard me like yelling on the couch. I'm like, South Carolina could not get anything to go into the basket. Like it didn't matter if it was a layup, like a, you know, wide open mid-range jump shot, 3-pointers, like didn't matter what it was. I think for a long time they had like 1 bucket and then like 2 free throws. And that was all.
That was it.
So that's got to be frustrating. That actually was a storyline throughout the Final Four.
Really low shooting percentages all around.
Yes. from teams that led the nation in shooting percentage. I had looked that up, and actually of those 4 teams that made it, UCLA, Texas, UConn, and South Carolina, they were in the top 5 for field goal percentage for the season. And so to see them all shoot about 20% lower is pretty crazy.
I think there was some kind of social media conspiracies going around about rim sizes
and the balls and things like that. But so UCLA held them in the shooting category. They out-rebounded them by 10. Any basketball head's going to tell you that, like, if you can win the battle of the boards, make your free throws, and then win the turnover battle, you will win. Right. Most likely. And then they had, speaking of turnovers, they had 19 points off of turnovers versus South Carolina's 10. So they won that battle. They won the rebounding battle. They won the 3-point kind of contest too, which that becomes kind of a multiplier when you're thinking about winning and losing basketball games. So like I said before, UCLA coming into the tournament known for their offense and really defense was the star of the show for them in the Final Four and into the championship. That the whole thing is known as the Final Four, even though there's 2 games.
I feel like something you said early on in that game was to get Tessa the ball.
Yeah.
And I think the stat I read was like outside of her, the starters shot 25%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is insane.
And Alex is referring to Tessa Johnson, who's a Minnesota girlie here, went to Albertville High School, and is now a junior down with Dawn Staley in the Gamecocks in South Carolina. Minnesotan also on the championship Bruins. So Gianna Neepkins from Duluth, Minnesota, had started her college career at Utah, transferred into UCLA, was a senior this year. That girl had a fadeaway with a little kick out that one of the most difficult shots in basketball, but she was draining it all game. I think she had like maybe 10 or 12 points or something like that. Maybe it was a little bit less, but I was so impressed with her. So cool to see. Yeah. Cool to see the state representing.
Yeah,
I think at one point we had seen a graphic that in the suite of the teams in the Sweet 16. So going back, a few weekends, the state with the most players
was Minnesota.
In the Sweet 16 was Minnesota, and like California and Florida were 11 and Minnesota was 13.
Yeah, 13.
So we produce some ballers up here.
We do what we do.
We produce some ballers. All right. Speaking of kind of that Final Four set, what I think sometimes it can get, sometimes I see fans or just critics maybe seem to find it boring when teams dominate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I don't find that boring because I think the test for teams that dominate is, can you stay on top?
Yeah.
And you become, we've talked about this with other teams, US women's national team, like UConn, we've talked about it before. Like you have to everybody brings their best game to you. Yeah. Right. And so how do you adjust? How do you adapt? What was interesting about this year's Final Four, like 2 kind of fun facts that I found, was this was the first time, or the second time, in a long time where the Final Four was the same back-to-back years. So last year you had the same 4. Yep. We had, Texas, UCLA, UConn, and South Carolina again this year. And the other thing that was interesting was these 4 teams never left the top 4 all season. So they traded places outside of UConn. UConn was number 1 the whole season, but the other 3 just kind of rotated through 2 to 4. And I think that's really a testament. They all, outside of South Carolina and Texas, obviously play in the SEC together, but they all play in different conferences. So it's really a testament to how good they are.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about this a little bit and get kind of some more questions about this in my section here. But is this like how do teams get to that point, right? Is it like they have just a great team one year and the flywheel kind of starts and then it takes off? Or is it just you get a good coach in, or you get a good couple of players signed? Like how does a team get there and then stay there?
Well,
because like how would a team break into this kind of top 4, top 5 and break through?
Yeah, I mean, so if you look at that group of 4, right? You've got Geno, who's been at UConn for over 40 years, right? Dawn's been at South Carolina for a long time now. I don't know exactly how long. Vic Schaefer's been at Texas for probably as long as Geno's been at UConn. And you've got Cori Close, who I think this was her 15th season. And now, like you said before, UCLA hasn't maybe won the titles. And actually Texas hasn't really either, that the other 2 have. But I do think in the college game, there's definitely a value in the known factor of the coach. Yeah. I think players choose to want to go be mentored under certain coaches.
Kind of like a Nick Saban.
Yeah. And like, how might this coach help potentially translate me into a professional career in this sport? And you look at Geno, he's turned out 25 WNBA players and like successful, like the most successful WNBA players. Maya Moore, Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Nafisa Collier, Breanna Stewart. Like those are all his players, right? Rebecca Lobo. And Dawn Staley is similar, right? So I think it does have to do with the coach. I think the programs where there's, more flux in that space, right? I mean, we're seeing right now it's like 800 players have entered the transfer portal, and so they're not from those schools. So I think it's a good question. I think it's a little bit of it is, and then the NIL thing also starts to play in here. And I don't know enough about exactly how that works, right? But if your school is more marketable, you get more NIL money. And true. So I can see where players now see this as a way to make money while they're playing their sport in college. And so you're going to choose a school where there's more financial incentive for you. So, okay. Sorry. I lost my, I was pondering over here. Just thinking about it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I thought was like fun, but in the broadcast around the Final Four, they had this like alt cast. So sometimes they do this with NFL games, right? They have the Manning cast and Eli and Peyton will have different guests on. And it's like, ESPN2 is airing it while the main commentary is happening on ESPN. Well, they did this, I think even last year, maybe for a few years prior to this, they had Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi did this, and they brought in different people, and they would be watching the game and commenting on the game, but kind of through their lens of experience and whatnot. And so they tried this year with, they brought in Jess Sims, who has done a bunch of different sports reporting and just come back to do women's college basketball this season. Very, experienced reporter for women's college basketball. But then they brought in Ilona Maher. And had her sit side by side with Sims. And then during the Final Four, they had the stud buds. So Courtney Williams and Natisha Heidemann. And for the final, the championship, they had the point guard, Chelsea Gray. And I saw they brought Charlemagne the God in too. He's a big Gamecocks fan, I guess, I read. And when we were watching during the Final Four, I was like, okay, this is kind of cool.
Well, first of all, they put it on at the bar we were at. We were like, what is that? And we need to get home and go watch that.
I want that audio. And we're big Stud Buds fans because we've got T and Court here and with the Minnesota Lynx. But I thought it was cool. I was like, I commented to Alex, I was like, hey, they're trying to capitalize on brand notoriety from people who are known maybe in like kind of other ecospheres, right? Stud Buds, not that like WNBA fans aren't women's college basketball fans. They are. But like Ilona Maher has millions and millions of followers following her kind of Olympic burst onto the scene. And it was interesting, right? Now when I started to think about it more, I was like, it was cool, but I feel like ESPN missed an opportunity.
Okay.
So I don't recall seeing any kind of advertising that they were doing this.
No, I didn't see that either.
Right? Why would you not hype that up? Right? So first of all, you have people who are followed, have huge followings. You could have easily gotten more viewers to...
It would have taken one post on Ilona Maher's Instagram to bring millions of more people to the...
So to me, I was like, that feels weird. The second thing was they had a real opportunity to maybe coach them a little bit more. There were moments when we were watching and they were just like silent, like they're just watching the game, like really engaged. And I thought that T and Court did I thought they did a good job, but I heard, we didn't watch the alt cast on the final, but I heard that it was like a little like weird.
Okay.
And I felt like it would have been so easy to have Alona play the like help me understand basketball role and like ask questions, and she'd have no issue. She doesn't seem to have any issue doing that, right? And have the basketball experts there kind of explaining like what's going on. And that would have been really like educational, funny, like we were cracking up at Court and T.
They're like dancing, singing the songs.
Like, that was, and they get it, right? Like that's kind of their thing. And so I just feel like they could have done a little bit better, like production coaching on that. And they really fumbled by not like making a bigger deal out of it. So
I almost wonder if it was like last minute or the other thing that came to my head was like, is there some sort of weird, this is on ESPN2, so the ad revenue is different, or counts different, so they actually want to push more viewers towards a certain, I don't know, it's some weird, I don't know why, weird. I don't know why they don't advertise that. Yeah,
it seemed weird on hindsight. Like I liked it as an idea and I thought it was smart at first. And it was smart. It's just like we'd missed on a few of the execution pieces. And like when we're trying to, the whole point is, right? Like we're trying to bring more people into the fold.
Yeah.
We want more people watching. And we want more people like getting excited about the athletes, the sport, whatever it is, or even the people who are talking about it.
Yeah. And I think, I was going to say, I think it's smart going into it next time is having somebody who is not a basketball fan whatsoever to come in and say, what was that? How does that work? Because if you have a whole bunch of people that you're bringing from your social media following or from whatever sport you play to say, oh, this is a new sport for me too. I don't really know what's going on.
Right.
And then the announcer just gets to explain the whole thing and explain where it's going.
Right. Yeah. So anyways, that was one of the things just like unrelated to the basketball that I thought was an interesting thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think what I wanted to kind of talk about, and we're going to talk about it a lot more in depth, so we don't have to get too deep here, but was just the UCLA at WNBA pipeline. All 5 of those started. I think there's 5 UCLA team members that are expected to go first round. Betts, Neepkins, Rice,
Ledger Watkins.
I have Walker. And Jaquez. And so I think it's
right. Yeah.
I think it's interesting they have
Jaquez
probably.
Yeah, Jaquez.
I think it's interesting they have 5 people going straight into the WNBA draft. Like they're done last week. Next week they're probably going to be drafted in the first round.
Yeah.
And I think that's wild. I think from my research, it's kind of what UConn has been doing and all these years is like build a team, win, and like rebuild, kind of that going back to like that flywheel we talked about a little bit, or like the coach.
Yeah.
And so I think more what I wanted to get to here is it's going to be interesting to see if Cori Close is able to continue to get people in, and kind of wondering, is it easier now with how the transfer portal is so prevalent to get newer players in that are going to be able to potentially keep them on the top?
It's a good question. A couple comments before I get to my response to that, I think. So one is what UCLA had this season was extremely unique because of transfer portals and things like that. You do not hardly ever see 5 starting seniors.
Yeah.
Let alone 5 starting seniors that are going to go first round in the WNBA draft. I should look that up because I'm kind of like, I don't know if has that ever happened? I don't even think Geno's turned that out.
Yeah.
So going to that, you used UConn as the comparison. Is UConn always has a class, right? Like they keep in Becker's year last year, you had like Caitlin Chen coming out that year, and like so she went to play in the WNBA, things like that. But he always has like 1 or 2 players that he's structuring that next season around. And so he's always got 1 or 2 players leaving.
Yep.
And then he's bringing in the next ones, and he's just kind of in this like wave. You actually saw Dawn Staley in the championship game bringing in younger talent to that game when she kind of knew it was a lost cause because she wants to get them that experience so that when they're there next time, they're like, they kind of get what's going on, right? And they're not like deer in the headlights. Cori Close I think it is going to be harder at UCLA because you had such dominance from this senior class who decided to stay, and like kudos to them for deciding to stay, because a lot of times this day and age, seniors will just transfer their last year to go somewhere they think they can win a championship. And they all committed to one another and said, if we stay, there's a lot of stories out there about this right now, right? If we stay here, we might achieve something uncommon together, right? And so I do think that team will be something worth watching next year. Now, just through the tournament, I've learned a lot more about Coach Close's philosophy and her approach to coaching. And she seems like somebody who, and they've been good in the time that she's been there. She's grown that program year over year. And so I think that's her next test. Yeah. Right.
Can she get there again, or can she bring in the right talent to get there again?
Yeah. And you also have to acknowledge too with UCLA is like they had a singular talent in Lauren Betts. And I say that as a singular because she's freaking 6'7".
6'7".
Like
nobody on the Spotify saw that. So
that's right.
I didn't just do what our kids do all day.
And so she is unique in that regard. Like there are things that a 6'7" player can do that, you know, you bring in all the 6'4" players in the world, they're not going to be able to do that. So it's worth watching. It's a really good question. I again, kudos to that senior class. They were phenomenal. Throughout the tournament. I was so impressed.
Yeah. I think the best quote, at the trophy celebration was the Jaquez said, I think she was asked something to the effect of, what did you guys decide to do different? Or what did you decide to do as a team? And she said, we decided to win a national championship. And it's like,
there you go.
Boom, there you go.
There you go.
But yeah, okay. Let's move on. We got to keep moving here. We have.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're going to bring another one in.
Well, I would be remiss if we didn't talk about.
Oh, we do have to talk about it. Yes.
What happened between Geno and Dawn.
Yes, we do.
We've had time, obviously, to sit on this and think about it. It was funny. We were watching that game at a sports bar, so we had no audio on the game. But we saw it happen. And we were like, that was weird. And then they brought on I should have talked about this, but like the actual broadcast team of Christine Williams, Drea Carter, and Chinea Gumuke they're fantastic. Yeah, that's great. Like our favorite part of women's college basketball or WNBA when they do that is like those women on the desk. But we're watching, and this happened, and UConn is lost, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, Alex, look at Chinea. Yeah, like she's
upset,
mad, like her eyes are angry. And so then we're trying to figure out what is on Instagram happened?
And Threads, like what is happening.
So first of all, it tells you like that wasn't expected from Geno. Now, maybe it should have been. He does not have a pristine track record for his behavior, and I think I was reading a lot over the weekend about how Paige over the last 4 years that she was at UConn really kind of softened how he was perceived. Yep. But I remember growing up, and my dad can vouch for this, that like I didn't really have a lot of respect for how he coached. He kind of came across as more transactional, a little bit of a hard ass, like just not a style that I think is the most effective, especially when you're working with young people. Yeah. Any people, but young people in particular. But he's successful, right? And you can't argue with that. But I also think that we use that as an excuse for some of the less than ideal behavior. And what we saw on Friday was it was I don't even know what the right word is, like inexcusable, frankly.
Yeah.
The way that he came at Dawn.
It was a tantrum that he threw based on a kind of BS premise to begin with. Like it didn't really make sense what.
Yeah. Yes. And the other,
like he was mad that he lost.
Yes.
But decided to make it about something else so he could throw the tantrum. Like it felt so wrong. And there's been a lot of speculation, you know, was he trying to like do it to take the pressure or the media attention away from his players who just played arguably one of the worst games of their careers? I don't think that that's a reason to treat somebody poorly. Dawn didn't do it.
Yeah, Dawn. Yeah, Dawn.
They had a terrible game. Dawn didn't do it.
Dawn did not do it, and Dawn, you know, reacted in the moment, which I don't think you can blame somebody for that. But then she has frankly handled herself with extreme professionalism in class, and frankly, we've talked about this here on the podcast before, but like she has to. Yeah. She doesn't have another option because if she does comport herself in a way that Geno did, or if she reacted, she would get a lot more nastiness than he has. Yeah. And it's disappointing to see people kind of dismissing his behavior. Yeah. While she is literally before our eyes being held to a completely different standard than he is. Yeah. One of the things I thought about with this though is like, if he was so pissed off about her like skipping out on this handshake, was that in his head the whole game? Like, yeah. And he, because what's interesting is if you watch the game, like Geno got out coached. Yeah. Like Dawn executed her game plan and made adjustments when you can see like really good coaches, you can kind of tell like, okay, they're going to make a defensive switch here. They're bringing this sub on, and, you know, she's converting and like she's in her ear or whatever. He got out coached, and it actually made me wonder, like, was he like so pissed off about this handshake? And like, what does that say about your resolve and like your ability to kind of like deal with the things you can control and like let the uncontrollables go? Like, I don't know.
Well, and the other thing is, was it that, or was there some other news that he got that was so terrible, completely not related to basketball? But at that point, you either play the game and act like a real friggin' person, or you excuse yourself and don't go to the game. Like, if it was the handshake, that's insane. Because that's insane to me. Yeah. If it was something else, then you should have done something else. Like, figured out how to get around that.
Yeah. I think the last thing I'll say on this is it's really disappointing for a player like AZ Fudd, who had a phenomenal college career, was at UConn for 5 years. She just lost the biggest game of her life. And her coach walked off the court and wasn't even there to like support her or her teammates. And that to me is like, it's just like the layer on top of how he went at Dawn. That is really disappointing. And I said this to you, we had a lot of really good dialogue in our household about gender dynamics and racial dynamics and things about what was going on here. And I think for me, you know, you've got a leader, black, white, male, female, doesn't matter, but who is in a position of power, who in the moment where they are needed to leverage that power the most to lead, he failed. Yeah. Yep. Similar to your point. And I just think that's, and it's so disappointing when somebody that you trust to lead you just misses the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do better, Geno.
I feel like the one upside after the championship was over was kind of Cori Close from UCLA was mentored by John Wooden, which kind of the opposite,
very much
the opposite of a Geno, but extremely successful, right? And so just seeing someone mentored by him and having that same type of leadership style, actually came out on top.
Yeah, agree. Okay, that's enough of that.
Okay, now we're moving on. WNBA expansion draft.
Oh, it's on.
Free agency. It's on. Everything.
Yeah, so let's get into this quick here. We had the expansion draft over the weekend. I'm going to be honest. My whole thought on the thing was like, this could have been an email.
Yeah, this is underwhelming.
The broadcast was silly. It wasn't like a pick back and forth. It was like, this team picked this person. This team picked this person. Oh, and here's the rest of the roster.
Yeah.
It didn't have a draft feel to it. So I feel like they could have done better with that. Basically, the results of that, we've got our two expansion teams, the Portland Fire and the Toronto Tempo. Portland Fire had the first pick. They took Bridget Carlton of our Minnesota Lynxies here. We're sad to see BC go, but that could be a good career move for her.
Yeah.
Like, see a team built around her versus her being kind of the fifth wheel.
Everyone thought she was going Tempo.
Well, I think they did, because she's Canadian.
Yeah.
And I think that Portland with that first pick was like, we have to pick her, otherwise they're going to take her. But the Fire ended up with BC, Shug Sutton from the Washington Mystics, and then really had, to my eye, more youth, like kind of less experienced players. And then the Toronto Tempo, I was shocked by this, but got Marina Mabry from the Connecticut Sun. Now, I was reading that Mabry, I think, had expressed interest in leaving. So there maybe was almost like a mutual decision to not protect her.
Yep.
And let her go. But they ended up with what looked like more vets, more experience. They both have a pick in the first round of the WNBA draft. So it'll be interesting to see who they pull. But let's just get us caught up here on the...
Can I ask one quick question?
Oh, sure.
So I think from my research, the Valkyrie actually did kind of the more veteran expansion draft when they came in, and they went 500 in their first year.
Mm-hmm.
Which do you think is better in this shortened season? A more youthful team, or a more veteran stacked team?
Well, I don't think the season is shorter, is it?
Well, the compressed
lead up to the season.
Normally this expansion draft.
Experience for sure. Yeah. Because you got players who have been in camp before and like understand kind of how it rolls. Now you're also, these players have gotten drafted. They didn't know they were getting drafted. They now have to move.
Yeah.
To wherever they're going to, and that could be far for some of them. But I think I would take experience. If you want results right away, I would take experience. If you're playing the long game, which you might be, right? You build on the youth and you build a team and that sort of thing. So, all right, our free agency timeline. We are now buck wild for the rest of the week here on, glued to my Threads, WNBA Threads, whatever thing
you call them, thread, I guess.
Thread. Qualifying offers. So free agency opened today. We already mentioned Angel Reese was traded to the Atlanta Dream for like a couple first round picks over the next few years, which I think shows how little Chicago actually valued her or something. I don't know. That was always off.
It was always off.
So
got problems over there.
Yeah. Starting today through Wednesday release date of this podcast, qualifying offers are due. The core designations can be made on players. We'll get into that at a different time. And then negotiations begin midweek to the end of the week. So this is when those offers get made to the players, then they're going to negotiate, and then they can start signing contracts basically on Saturday. And then you've got the WNBA draft on the 13th. So you've got to imagine the teams need to have their rosters kind of sorted.
Mostly figured out.
By the 13th so that they know who they need to go pick. And then training camp starts on April 19th. So that's
a couple weeks.
Yeah, just couple weeks. And then the regular season tips off on May 8th.
Right.
So speaking of that draft coming up a week from today, it'll actually be happening probably while we're recording.
Yeah.
We'll maybe get to watch a little bit of the first round before this. We've got our first round draft order, and it's pretty interesting. We were talking about this before, but you've got like a blend of like teams that made the playoffs and then teams that absolutely did not make the playoffs. So you've got the Dallas Wings with the first pick. They were 10-34.
Yeah, they were not great last year.
They were 10-34. Finished dead last in the league. We'll talk about kind of who we think is going to get picked there. You got them followed by Minnesota, which is the flip side of 34-10. And you said you were kind of looking into like how on earth did they get a second round pick?
There was a full like meme slide of like how we got here, and it was kind of crazy.
Was it an agreement? Like, was it from last season or was it from a couple seasons ago?
Part of it was giving up a pick for Angel Reese's spot.
Okay, so it's been a couple. It's like thing. It's been a couple years that this happened. So like, which is, I mean, we'll take it.
Yeah.
Seattle follows the Lynx. They were in the playoffs last year. Washington, Chicago, also 10-34, but I think on a tiebreak or something, beat out the Wings for the last place team. Then you've got that following Toronto and Portland with their picks. So you're still in like the top 10 there.
Yep.
Top 7 or so. And then Golden State, last year's expansion team, who also made the playoffs. Yep. Followed by Washington again, and then Indiana, who made the playoffs, followed by Washington again. Okay. So Washington gets three first-round picks. Connecticut Sun, Atlanta, and then Seattle again, and then Connecticut again. So, you know, you got a couple picks for a few teams. Seattle, Connecticut, Washington Mystics all get multiple picks in that first round, which is kind of silly. It's like, how does Dallas just get one?
They get the one.
But they're probably going to get a good one. Yeah. So the top, kind of comparing that, you have the top 15 draft prospects right now. And we've got a mix of internationals and then obviously those college players. As Alex mentioned before, of these 15 top picks, 5 of them are UCLA players. Yeah. So 1/3 of this pool is coming out of that national championship team. So we've got Aua Pham, center from Spain. She just played Team USA at the Invitational in Puerto Rico a couple weeks ago. She had a good showing against them. She's 19. That's one thing you'll notice about these international stars coming out. They're teenagers. Yep. I think if they weren't, they'd go to college here somewhere, right? And so she's 19 years old. Izzy Fudd, guard from UConn. Olivia Miles, guard from TCU. We saw her in the tournament. Now we've got Lauren Betts and Kiki Rice from UCLA, Raven Johnson from South Carolina, and then Nell Angloma from France, a forward, 19 years old again. Gianna Neepkins, who we've talked about already from UCLA, Flau'jae Johnson from LSU, Gabriela Jaquez from UCLA, Tanaya Latson from South Carolina, Ayana Martin from Spain. Spain is churning out some good talent over there, it seems. Charlize Ledger-Walker from UCLA, and then Cody McMahon from Ole Miss.
Oh, okay.
Was the 15th one in there. So we were looking at this and we were kind of talking before the episode today, like, you know, who do we think Minnesota's going to pick? So obviously we care about the Lynx, but
everyone's saying Olivia Miles.
Yeah.
I'm so confused.
It seems like that's what they want. Like that's what they're projecting to me. You know, Alex and I talked about this a bit, like I said, off camera, off mic, but to me, that doesn't make sense. Yeah. I would be kind of surprised if they took her over an AZ Fudd. To be clear, it's looking like Aua Pham is going to go first to the Wings. Yep. She seems like a good fit for them. It could, I don't. Lauren Betts' draft stock went way up. Yeah, right,
for sure.
And so it's possible that, you know, maybe they would take, if you're looking for a big, right, which Aua Pham's a big. maybe, but
if I had, I think if thinking about it more, if I had to rank who Minnesota is going to take at number 2 is probably AZ1. If not, then Betts. If not, then Miles. That would be my guess. I would bet it on AZ. That's what I think.
Yeah. So what's interesting, we didn't go into like a ton of detail on, there's another Lynx player who we lost in the expansion draft, Maria Kolundikova, and she was our big, essentially, like our center. So to me, it's like we lost our best 3-point shooter. AZ Fudd is a phenomenal 3-point shooter. And we lost our only 6'5" pluser, right? And so to me, it could go either way. I'm curious the calculus, and we also were joking earlier, like we're glad we don't have to make these decisions. The calculus on, what gives you better matchups against other teams. We talked about Lauren Betts being kind of singular, one of one with that height. You have some other guards in Williams and Heidemann. Now, whether or not they are still on the team, this is the other thing is we don't have all the variables because we're still in free agency period. So we shall see.
I think the other thing that I saw is the interesting thing will be in the season is to see how Dallas and OFAM work out. My understanding is that she's a little bit inconsistent from my research. Wow. And also it's kind of like one of those high risk, high reward type of scenarios. My understanding is she hasn't really had a lot of elite adult play or a lot of high volume stats there. So you're kind of going off of just what she's done so far against not WNBA elite players yet. Right.
Yeah.
So,
and it does make you wonder, would the Wings want somebody who's more a little no offense, but she's 19 years old, right? So it's kind of a little bit older, not that much older, but a little bit older. And then again, it's what's your play? Is it long? They kind of need help now.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can't really wait for somebody to incubate and figure it out. So I just, one more thing on this, and then we can move on to your storyline. I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see Gabriela Jaquez go higher. She had a great tournament and kind of proved that she can play. She's got a motor on her. I think the question for a lot of these players too, right? You've got outside of Miles, Raven Johnson here in the top 10. Oh, and Flage. You've got teams that aren't in the or players that didn't play in the SEC. The SEC is known for more kind of a style of play that's more akin to the W than the Big East or the Big Ten. And so I do kind of wonder too if that transferable skill of playing a little bit more in that style where it is more, you got to be strong, right? So we'll see.
We'll see how it goes. Let's talk about this Connecticut Sun moving to the Houston Comets. So I'm not going to go into detail on the whole timeline here, but I'm going to try and get as much of it right as we can. And then we'll get to why here in a second. The Mohegan Tribe put the Sun up for sale in 2024. I think you were talking, do you remember the original? I think it was $250 they wanted out, or it was valued at $240 or something like that. Anyways, the Celtics minority owner offered $325 million to move them to Boston. I think we also said $100 million practice facility. There was also a former Milwaukee Bucks owner that offered $325 to keep them somewhere in New England.
Most likely Hartford, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then now it comes out that the league facilitated the sale to I'm going to try my best. please don't cancel me, Fertitta family for $300 million, which is $25 million less, to move them to Houston. And fans were all over social media going, what in the collusion is this? Like,
yeah.
So we were talking about it a little bit earlier, and we found out that it was a thing where the league just said, we want to go to Houston. The team's going to Houston. It doesn't matter what you have to offer us at this point.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like we smelled this right away. We were like, this smells weird. Because like, especially if you take it in like juxtaposition with the CBA negotiations.
Yeah, and how sketchy the numbers have always been.
Well, and just like the money, like it seems odd that they would take less money. So there's something there. And what I was reading, and I told you this earlier, but it seems like Adam Silver inserted himself. So Adam Silver is the commissioner of the NBA. He's Kathy Engelbert, the WNBA commissioner's boss. He seemed to have inserted himself late stages of this in the fall of last year and basically said, we are moving this to Houston.
Yep.
We want to ensure that NBA ownership is a part of
just muddy the financial picture.
WNBA
even
ownership.
More.
And yes, if you recall the way that the league is split up right now, it's like 42% NBA, 42% WNBA owners, and then there's a 16% stake that's held by outside investment, which is actually in some cases the same people. And so there's something about the like inbreeding of that, for lack of a better word, that's going on there, that they wanted to get it out of the hands of the Mohegan tribe. And I was reading even that the state of Connecticut offered to put a stake in with the Mohegan tribe to keep it in Connecticut. And that was obviously turned down.
I said a little bit this earlier, but I think there's more to it now that I've thought a little more on it. Is like, I do believe that certain private businesses should be able to do the things that they want to do, but in situations like this where it's being offered $25 million more and you say no, there should be some sort of antitrust. Just like when companies decide to merge, there's antitrust, like has to get approved by the government. I think there's got to be a little bit more oversight into something like this. Or I feel like, this could open the NBA up to some sort of audit potentially.
Which we've already talked about could be possible with the CBA stuff. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to follow that storyline. Yeah. I know fans are, like I said in the headlines, that franchise has been around for 23 years. Yeah. Like that's kind of gut wrenching.
But also think about the fans potentially in Boston, potentially in Hartford, that were like, $325 in Boston and $100 million. We've got this in the bag, and then feels like it's pulled out from under you. Like, that sucks.
It does suck.
All right, we're moving on here.
Let's move it on.
We got some roundups here. U.S. Women's National Team. We've got 3 games over the next week and a half.
Yeah, this is big, honestly. These are the 3 friendlies against Japan. Japan's just coming off of winning the Asia Federation or football championship, Asian Federation puts that on. And they have been just in such good form. They beat the U.S. last year. It was Emma Hayes' first loss as U.S. head coach. And I talked about them in one of the first times we talked about international soccer, like, their style of play is so disciplined and so technical. They're so patient. Yeah. They're so willing to just hold their position and wait for you to make a mistake. Yeah. Like a Venus flytrap or something.
I don't remember I didn't write the stat down. What was their goal differential in that Asian Cup? It was 28?
9-1.
Yeah.
29 to 1. Crazy. Yeah. Which is something like that. They allowed the 1 goal, but they were scoring, which is the crazy part for Japan. That's not usually their MO. So these are going to be great tests. I think the thing that I I'm excited about is this roster has tightened since She Believes, right? And this is about as close as I think we're getting to what we're going to see for qualifying. There's a few players still out on injury so you've got Katarina Macario just signed with the San Diego Wave coming off of a heel injury. You've got Mal Swanson hopefully working her way back. She has been practicing with the Chicago Red Stars. So, and there's still some questions defensively, but like outside of that, like I think we're seeing more or less what Emma Hayes is expecting for World Cup qualifying. And to play a team 3 games in a row, the same team with your group, that like, this is I'm going to be so locked in to watch the different lineups she chooses, the different formations she might play with those lineups, and then the different strategic approaches, because Japan doesn't. Now, this will be interesting to watch for Japan. Japan does not usually vary their tactic, right? Their tactic, they have a style that's very unique to them. And so I'm curious to see how Emma approaches that over the course of 3 consecutive games.
That was, you kind of led right into my question was, I think Emma had said she's not motivated by necessarily winning these games, but kind of more figuring out where those different pieces are going to go. And so like, how does the casual fan what do they watch for in this type of game? I think along with that, the other stat I saw was 37.4 average caps on this team versus 6.6 average in January. So she's not experimenting anymore, but she's experimenting a little bit like with other things.
Yeah. And there's still some experimenting from the player perspective, but I do think it is more about, I think it's building a little bit on some of the She Believes stuff. So some of the things she talked about with She Believes was you played some really physical teams, some teams that they want to get under your skin in Argentina and Colombia. And I think she's going to be looking in this game of like, can we outpatient the patient people, right? Can we hold our positions and our formation and not force and make sure that we're getting good balls in against a really kind of a low block, which is what Japan typically plays. What I'm hopeful to see, and I think something that I have to imagine she's hopeful to see, is can we score goals? We haven't really been putting on a show from a goal scoring front since those early friendlies in the year. And so now with this group, it's sort of like, can I find that combination that has the creativity and the freedom to move around the pitch and generate scoring opportunities? Defensively, I'm not super worried. I would say that left back position continues to kind of be like, oh, what are we doing here? And then I also think we talked about this with She Believes, but like the U.S. women's national team with the current roster is best, at least against the teams. I don't know if this will be true against Japan, but when we have that true 6, that true like Sam Coffey playing that defensive center midfielder role. So.
Yeah, I think from my side of things, I just wanted to point out Soph's back.
Gigi's
mom hasn't played for 17 months with the U.S. women's national team.
So excited.
I'm just like stat dumping essentially here.
I love
She will be the 18th mother to play for the U.S. women's national team, and if she scores, the 9th to score a goal. Emma Hayes said, I couldn't believe she's had a baby and come back to perform at that level, speaking about her most recent, I think, NWSL games.
She's been starting last couple games for the Thorns, and just almost, dare I say, like looking in a weird way, like better, like hungrier. I don't know. I've listened to a few interviews with her, and she's got like a freedom to. Alex Morgan had this too, coming back of like, my whole identity is not soccer now. Right. My primary identity is mom. And somehow that like lifts a weight from a performance perspective for these really, really high performing athletes. So
my question was specifically for you. I have 2 questions. And maybe the first one's maybe a little bit for our male listeners.
Okay.
Speak to how impressive it is for her to come back after having a child in September of last year.
It's crazy.
I think some people who may be younger, haven't had kids yet, probably think 6, 8 months, whatever it's been, not that big of a deal, but it doesn't work like that.
No, I mean, the thing too to think about is like, you think of other big injuries, ACL tear, right? I'll use that as an example. And that has I don't know, this day and age, 7 to 9 month, 10 month, 8 to 10, whatever. I don't know, something like that.
Used to be like 13 to 16.
Yeah. Used to be you were done for a year, right? And when that happens, and you think about the importance of the knee in most sports, right? You now have like a very specific, relatively speaking, like protocol, therapeutic protocol you're going to follow. And if you do it right, you can still train like the rest of your body in certain ways. Right? Pregnancy is like changes everything in your body. So you literally have just spent 9 months like rearranging your insides. Your hormones are still, 6 months postpartum, like her hormones are still
through the roof.
They're doing different things, right? They're not at their kind of normal baseline and stuff like that. And depending on if she breastfed or if she's still doing that or whatever, like that's a whole other, factor or consideration for her. You obviously can get on to hormonal therapies and maybe that was a choice that was the right one for her too, that kind of helped balance that out. But you think of the importance, go back to the ACL, like the importance of the knee in these sports. We do not pay enough attention to the importance of your core. We take that for granted a lot. Everybody who has ever tweaked their back before knows that you take for granted that your back functions most of the time, right? And then all of a sudden you tweak it and you can hardly walk. Well, think about like that, but like the whole, abdominals, pelvis, right? Hips, etc., all of this stuff. And so it's just like, this day and age, you probably do have better access to support staff, physical therapy, regular, pelvic floor training. Like that's a big thing. Like that is not even talked about to women right now. And like as an athlete, you need your pelvic floor as part of your core, right? Like you need these things. And so like she has more potential, or like these women have more potential to come back and be in a good position to compete at the levels that they were at before or at a high level. But it is impressive.
Super impressive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think everyone should be given a round of applause to all the moms out there who come back and compete at any level. Frankly, I'm going to join flag football apparently.
So, there you go.
There we go.
Okay, let's move on to NWSL. Let's take a look at the standings.
Yeah, so I think just coming on the heels of discussing the national team, we're headed now into an international break. So that started on Sunday. It's 2 weeks. You've got, teams playing as they tune up for World Cup, or there's qualifiers going on. We've kind of talked about that schedule before. What we're curious about is how does this impact the current momentum in the NWSL? So right now we have some teams at the top of the standings that like we frankly weren't expecting to see there. So
Diego, what are you doing?
Leading the league as we hit the break here are the San Diego Wave, which if you had asked me that even like, Alex is switching his hat for those on the pod to his San Diego Wave hat. If you had even asked me like 2 weeks ago that they'd be here, I would have said no.
Not at all.
I think we even talked about on this podcast that they like, but then you think about the pieces that they've kind of pulled together, and like we were watching them the other night, And Mel Barcenas' goal, the goal of the week in the NWSL last 2 weeks ago now, beautiful.
Yeah.
And they've got Kat Macario waiting in the wings once the WSL season is done. So San Diego at the top of the table, 12 points, 4-1. You got followed by Portland. They've been in form. They've looked good. They won a game with 9 people on the field somehow. They just lost to the North Carolina Courage over the weekend. Olivia Moultrie has had a fantastic season to start.
Outstanding right now.
The youngest player to 20 goals in NWSL history. But sitting on 10 points, 3-1-1, followed by the Seattle Reign, who, they've been kind of like, I'm not really sure what their identity is going to be. I did just see for them their goalkeeper, Claudia Dickey, who's been in the U.S. national team rotation, just passed Hope Solo for all-time career saves for the Reign. So that's cool. Also on 10 points, 3-1-1, followed by LA, Angel City FC. They came out hot. They won their first 3 games, and now they've lost 1. So they've played less games. This international break also makes the games played a little bit goofy.
A little bit weird.
But they have the highest scoring differential. They've been scoring a lot of goals. And then rounding out the top 5, we've got the Houston Dash, which is also not a team I expected to see in this grouping here. But they're hanging tight, similar to LA, with 9 points, 3-1-0. So,
oh no, Gotham! What is you doing way down there?
Yeah, Gotham, and Kansas City and Washington are all outside of that. Yeah. But you've got Denver hanging in there in the middle of the pack at number 9, and then the poor Boston Legacy
don't know who they are yet.
Bombing out. I don't know if they've scored a goal yet. But Chicago, every time we turn Chicago on, we're like, oh, you guys, Uncle's gonna quit. I think.
Yeah,
which is Alyssa Nair for those who don't know.
Looks upset. She's always mad. Like hands on her hips, like what is happening here?
So we'll be very curious once they resume play post break here, kind of at the beginning of May. They'll be back in the swing of things to see how that momentum may shift, or can these teams maintain what they've built on here in the early season.
Then they get a full month of play, then a whole nother month off.
Yeah, for the World Cup, right? So I think in that window they might be doing the Champions Cup or whatever the hell that thing is.
The Bubble Cup. Was that the Bubble Cup, or was that in the bat?
It was in the bubble, but they call it something else.
Yeah, they have a different name.
We should know this. But we don't. So, anyways, I think that's this is going to be an interesting season. For the NWSL with those breaks.
With those different breaks, All
right, should we move into what to watch?
Yeah, let's talk about what to watch here. We've already talked about it. The national team games, 1 and 2. Game 1 on the 11th at 4:30 Central, and Game 2 on April 14th, next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central. Those are on TNT, Max, Peacock. But yeah, we discussed, Sophia Wilson, Tierna Davidson, and here's that stat: 29-1. Japan outscored their opponents at the Asian Cup. So these are going to be fun games to watch.
It'll be interesting to see if they test our defense with that level of scoring. They don't usually, but they do. It's not that they don't score, but I don't know. I will be very curious.
We'll see what happens. League we didn't talk about today, PWHL. We've got the Boston Fleet versus the Montreal Victoire Saturday at 6 Central on Ion or
Clash
YouTube.
of the Titans.
This is
top of the table.
TD Garden debut.
Oh,
they're playing at the Garden. So we'll see how that goes.
I wonder what the capacity is there. Do you think they can beat the?
I think it's less.
Okay.
I think it is less.
So they're just looking for a sellout. Sorry, maybe a shutout too.
There is playoff seating
on the line
there. So
home ice advantage.
Exactly.
Which we really want to get as.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to talk about next. Minnesota Frost versus New York Sirens Saturday at noon on FanDuel Sports North, PWHL YouTube. We did Minnesota clinched earlier this week, last week. In
a thrilling 11-goal game, folks.
That was wild.
Holy buckets.
Chasing home ice advantage as well. Also, Kelly Panic is 1 point from tying the single season scoring record.
Kelly Panic is a machine. Did she score 3 goals in that game? I think or something. She had some. The Frost by themselves, though, like they have so many scoring weapons. It's kind of scary. I think like her and Heisey and Curl or something are all, or maybe Zumwinkle at this point. I can't even keep track. Are like leading the league. And then you've got Coyne Schofield, who just got back from LTIR, who like somehow had so many points that she's still in the top like 8 or something, even though she was out for over, like 6 weeks. So, or whatever it was.
And just a quick talk about the New York Sirens here. They are, when you're looking at that 4th playoff spot, they are in 3rd place for the 4th playoff spot. So they have to hope that Ottawa and Toronto, who both play each other twice, kind of split. They have to beat us this game. They have to hope that Ottawa and Toronto lose to.
Right.
They have no control over their situation right now.
Oh, good grief.
They can do the best that they can do. About the only one that controls their destiny right now is Toronto.
Yeah.
If they can kind of win those 2 Ottawa games and against New York, then they're kind of golden. Yeah. So that's kind of where that 4th spot sits. It's going to be pretty tight there, depending on what happens. Finish.
And we didn't even mention we're going to the game on Saturday. On Saturday,
there we go.
We'll be there in the house.
You'll know what our favorite thing is
at Grand Casino Arena. Still sounds weird.
We talked about it earlier. The WNBA draft. This is Monday the 13th, 6 p.m. on Central on ESPN. We talked about all the picks. I don't think we have to go into anymore why you should watch that. WNFC, our women's
National Football
Conference. Week 3 matchup starting at 6 p.m. Central on Victory Plus on Saturday.
Yeah, early days in that. So standings are kind of a little bit arbitrary at this point.
Check it out. It's fun to watch.
It's interesting.
I'll be honest, you don't realize that they're actually women until you kind of look at some of the mannerisms that, like, it's very interesting because you're like, oh, this is another football game. Like, it's because of the pads and stuff. So
I will say they could use, I would recommend if they want to keep viewership growing, they could use some production investment.
Yes. Well, I think that is what that we talked about, that $1 million or whatever it is. They need it. Yeah. We also have LOVB playoffs are here. Wow, we got a lot here. We have Austin playing Atlanta at 3 p.m. and Salt Lake plays Houston at 5:30 on Friday on Victory Plus. And then it looks like we got some ESPN2 on Saturday. Austin plays Atlanta again at 5 p.m. and a nationally broadcast volleyball game on Sunday. Salt Lake plays Houston at 1 p.m.
Yeah, so it must. I didn't understand. They must play 2 matches, or they already played a third. I'm kind of like, I don't know how this works, because if you do a tie, there's a championship match scheduled for next Thursday, from what I could see. So we'll talk more about it maybe next week in our what to watch. But wanted to bring attention back to that. They've had some good viewership numbers over the season with that game of the week or match of the week. So
I think there was a quote by Holly Rowe that said, after covering for however many years she's been covering women's sports, she thinks it's the next big thing. Big thing.
You heard it from the sports siren herself.
All right, let's get into these winners and losers and kind of wrap this out.
All right,
losers first.
Geno Auriemma for the loss this past week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Self-explanatory.
Yeah. I do have a different one. I don't know if you want to say any more.
Nope, I said what I needed to say.
Also,
do better.
White men, we don't claim him, not all of us. I was going to say the state of Connecticut.
Oh, yeah, that's
lost their WNBA franchise. UConn lost in the Final Four.
Oh.
Geno.
We don't even know what's going on right now.
I was going to say, should I run out quick and look at her TV and see if the men's team lost? Geno kind of embarrassed the school there.
Everyone.
Didn't go well for
that. Yeah, that was a bad week.
Yeah, bad couple of weeks there. Winner.
Let's see. UCLA, man. Just like I said before, like learning more about the story of those seniors getting to that point, Cori Close's journey, and like the mentors.
Showing the camera my nose. She's literally sealing the exact winner so I had. So you take it away.
The mentors that she's benefited from. Alex mentioned she was mentored by John Wooden before his passing. Dawn Staley has mentored her among many others. I think I posted this, actually a repost on our stories today of her giving a little speech. It looked like potentially to Angel City FC actually, where she was talking about how she keeps a broom and a shovel in her office, and they're reminders to her that the broom is a reminder to be a servant leader, that you do the dirty work. It doesn't matter what your rank or whatever is. And then the shovel is a reminder that the most important work that you do when you're growing something is underground. It's the roots. It's not the pretty stuff that you see at top. It's building those deep connections. And I love that she's really embodied this approach of like, I want to coach in a way that is empathetic and caring, and my players feel like I care about them, and that I am not transactional, that I am truly transformational. So that's got to be my winner.
I think the only ones I would add to that was we're going to learn how to pronounce this. Jaquez going off while her brother, who plays in the NBA, was there.
Her parents.
Lauren Betts, yes. She has a sister who was on the team. They got to win a national championship together, which is fun. And then, like I said, a lot of these girls are just going to go get drafted by the WNBA in a week, and they're off.
So cool. So shout out to the Bruins. You're not who I picked, but I am glad you won.
Yes.
Actually, because I don't think I would want my pick to win now after the shenanigans over the weekend.
All right,
folks.
That's it for now.
That's all for this week. We will have plenty to talk about next week. Where can they find us?
RTG_pod on Instagram and Threads and YouTube. Substack, rtgpod.com. I think that's all of them that we have for now.
Until next time.
Yes, until next time.
Bye.
Bye.